Welcome back to The Bible's Art. We explore the literary artistry of the Bible, and this week I want to talk about what the world is, or maybe we should call it the art of the world. Okay, so what is the world? Like the physical world, like what is it, right? Now, normally today, our answer would be some sort of like chemical or physical descriptions, and it would probably be reductive. So we say, well, you'd give the best example when you say like, what's the fundamental particles? Now we don't know that yet, but let's just pretend, right? It's some sort of subatomic particle. It's a very small thing. You say, well, the world is like that stuff, and then that like combines together and makes high level stuff, and it's just like that's what the world is. Well, is that actually what the world is, and is that our highest understanding of it? So let me give you an example. Let's say it's your birthday and I go to your house and I give you a gift and you unwrap it and you receive it. And let's say you came home and then you were talking to someone else and your friend said, hey, what is that? And you pointed to that thing. What would be the most accurate response, the response with the most understanding into that thing? Now, it certainly wouldn't be if you gave a chemical a physical description of its component parts, right? And what's funny about it is that could actually indicate that your lack of understanding, right? Because the proper understanding is like, oh, that was a gift from that person. And when you understand that it's a gift and that it's a gift from a certain person, that is the deepest understanding of that physical thing. So then you ask, well, you could start moving up in the world and ask that about the different things around you, but then you could ask that about the universe itself. That doesn't seem to be an inappropriate question. And so then what is the answer to that question? And I'm going to say, when you understand that the world is a gift, and I'm not saying that metaphorically, is that you've reached a much deeper, more accurate understanding of what the world actually is. Now, a little backstory. So in the 20th century, in philosophy, there arose a movement called Phenomenology. And the phenomena is how just stuff like appears to you. You just look around and you see these books over here, and that's just the phenomena, how to find. And this group arose because they thought that the normal tradition of philosophy was ignoring how things just appear, how they look in the world, how you experience them. And there was an important structure there and there's important things to learn about it, other than like much of what the philosophical tradition had done with like, oh, things are made of substance and properties. So, and you're supposed to understand this thing is like, hey, those people were trying to like get beneath the surface and they were sort of ignoring the surface. So these phenomenologists came around. And one of the things that phenomenologists and Christian phenomenologists have discussed is the phenomena, the structure, the reality of a gift, because that's in the sort of broadest sense, we like wake up, we are given a body, we are given DNA, we're given family, and the givenness of world is like a fundamental feature of the world. And we know this from the Bible too, because in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then he makes little copies of himself and he gives us jobs to do, and we're supposed to like do the same thing that God gives with us. He gives us the world. He gives us authority over these animals. And so to understand the world means for us to understand it as a gift. And this tells us something interesting about understanding, about the nature of understanding and what we're supposed to do to understand something. You see, greater understanding happens when you ascend up, connecting things like motivation and action, properly categorizing things and comporting yourself to them properly, locating things in their proper place in the world and their web of existence. Because fundamentally, we live in a world of persons. That's one of the most fundamental philosophical and theological questions. Do we fundamentally live in a world of non-personal or personal things? And as a Christian, you believe that fundamentally we live in a world of persons. So once you understand the web of persons and how objects fit in as gifts, as exchanges, then you fundamentally moved up in your hierarchy of understanding. So it's important to understand the physical structure of things. But if you stop there, you could not only have a small understanding, but actually a lack of understanding, because when things get out of proportion, that can be just as much as an error. So think about what Jesus says: you tithe dill, mint, and cumin, but you neglect the weightier issues of the law. That is, your hierarchy is off balance, and so you've become corrupt, right? And you need to rebalance. So if you're understanding the whole world simply in terms of its physical composition, you haven't begun to understand the world. But that, in our popular culture, is a sort of like presupposition of a lot of what goes on, right? If I really want to understand the world, I learn science, right? It's not that science is unimportant, it's just that it is subordinate to higher forms of understanding you should be doing as you rise up, as you ascend up into higher levels of understanding of objects in the world. I always talk about this in the book of Revelation when I'm teaching it, because you get all these like amazing images of dragons and things like these. People sometimes think, oh, these are like nice, pretty metaphors. They're to kind of like help us understand like children. And I'm like, no, that's not what's going on. Sometimes these images are a more accurate description of someone than if you were to give a physical description. So for instance, if you were to say, explain Adolf Hitler to me, and if you were to give me a whole panoply of his physical properties, that wouldn't begin to help me to understand him. But if instead you were to use the image of, oh, this is a monster, you have a greater understanding of that thing through that image than any physical properties that you provide. And just as with that negative example, you can have positive examples too, like the world is a gift. Thank you so much for checking out the video today. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to support the channel, that'd be lovely. You can do so at patreon.com/thebibleisart. If you'd like to be notified whenever there's a new video, you can do so at thebibleisart.com/newsletter. Please leave any questions or comments below. I try to read and respond to them all. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.